Hey folks, Neil from Spark Angels here. I'm just in our Wellingborough store and I'm just going to show you the insides, as per the title, the insides of an iPad Air 2, and what you see, or what you don't see, is going on behind your screen. And it may fascinate some, it may be boring to others, but I thought I'd post it anyway because I find it quite interesting, but I'm a geek. So, hi to Dave and hi to Ben there. Right, here we go. So, behind your rather well smashed screen we've got been removed, we have the iPad Air 2, and as you can probably see, this entire black area here, that is all battery. So mostly behind your iPad is, I don't know what percentage that is, but it's all battery essentially, and that's what adds to the weight. I mean, the rear housing is aluminium, machined aluminium anyway, but yeah, the battery takes up most of the space inside your iPad there. These are lithium polymer batteries, so if you do stab them, they'll explode, but the key is to not stab them. And yeah, so that's what makes it last so long. Now these iPads, I mean, I've had an Air 2 and a Pro, and they do last an awful long time, and that is down to this. And the thickness is about, if you can see in there, it's about, I don't know, about 2.5 mil thick, all the way along there. 2 cells and a big control board down here that links them together and has a load of processes here to make sure that it's safe. And this board here, and this is the connector for the battery, kind of where it plugs in. This board here tells the iPad how much battery you have. It controls the temperature and the function of the battery. Yeah, it just makes it keeps it safe as well. So to be fair, they are darn reliable. Now, the lithium polymer battery is here. And then the actual board, the processor, the motherboard, the main board, logic board, whatever you want to call it, the bit that does the calculating and does the display work and all the work behind the iPad Air is here. And it starts here, runs all the way up. I say it ends here, it sort of does. Then you've got a tiny little board that comes across here and supplies functions such as your cameras and your antennas here, because this is a cellular version. So the main guts of the board, the thing that you see inside your computer, the motherboard, is just here. It's a tiny little strip. Again, it's double-sided, and underneath these metal shields is actual tiny little processing chips, some big processors, some small chips. And if you can see the size of these, minuscule, all manner of resistors and capacitors and chips here, all do different jobs. So you can see these tiny little dots by my finger. You've got the big square chips here, and even those tiny little dots between each one are tiny little resistors. So you can imagine that, and we see an awful lot of these minuscule little chips underneath these actual boards. In fact, Ben, can you pass me the logic board you've got there from a phone? There's just absolutely thousands and thousands and thousands underneath here of that as well. Now, Ben's kindly passed. At some point. Oh, that's okay. Kindly passed me. This is an iPhone board. Going slightly off topic, but you can see that these are made up the same thing of these metal shields and minuscule connectors and chips. And there's my big fat finger next to it to give you some size comparison. And there you go. You've got a black chip there. And now, to be honest, if I was one of our geeks, in-house geeks, which I'm not, I'd be able to tell you exactly what they do, but I'm not. And like I can say that it's double-sided. So that's what's inside your iPhone. Yeah, sorry about that. I got a phone call. That's typical. Yeah, that's an iPhone board. Back to the iPad. So you've got the main board running up here. Your little SIM tray, if you've got a cellular version, your SIM card slots into here. You've got the connections that come down here. This is for the screen and the home button. All connects into there as the screen then folds over. Follow up the board, and I really wish that I should have done some homework and found out what this processor was, but this video is a bit ad hoc because these guys have got one open. All these tiny connections and cables, these are antenna cables, and they run up and around the iPad and give you things like, this being a cellular version, has 2 flat antennas up here. Now, one is most likely going to be the Wi-Fi antenna that you'll find on every one. The other one's probably a cellular connection. There's the tiny little camera for your FaceTime. And then this metal box here, this cube, is the rear camera. Now, in all honesty, this iPad is dead. It's not going anywhere. And there's your rear camera and microphone. So underneath there will be your camera, and part of the assembly underneath this cable is a tiny chip that comes from that hole into the microphone. Running underneath this board here and all the way to the end, tiny little audio chipset here, And underneath this metal shield here is your headphone jack, right there. Okay. Now these two sensors you've got here and here, they look kind of purpley. They're infrared sensors. Now they kind of detect the light levels because they're facing you and you're FaceTiming it. They detect the light levels inside the room that you're at, and they will allow the screen to kind of dim and get brighter depending on what the conditions you're in. I believe if you're in bright light or outside, it will dim the screen down. Oh no, it's the opposite actually. It will make it brighter so you can see it through the reflection. And if you are in a darker room, then it dims the screen so you don't get sort of bright lights. Tiny little brackets here. Now the complexity inside here is just immense. Tiny little screws and brackets, and along here you've got the volume buttons. So the cable underneath those, that black bracket and screws will be the volume button, just there. And you've got another little ambient microphone up here, which will be nestled somewhere on that cable just there. Along the bottom, you've got this dot connection here that's soldered onto the board. I think we've got some pictures of one that is very intricately soldered. I think you do. Under there, there's about, I don't know, 30, 40 pinpoints underneath there that all get soldered on. That's what we use the microscope for, all the soldering work there, that not many people can do it in the land, but we have one of them. And that's the dot cable there. So if you have a dock issue, or you've got bent pins or anything along here, so there's your dot cable there, then this whole cable needs replacing and soldered onto the board. Now, it's an ultra specialist job that we can do. And then either side you've got down here, oh no, that in fact, I stand corrected. Okay, going back to the antennas, there is your Wi-Fi antenna, and there's the cable that feeds your Wi-Fi, little interconnection board there, and the cable goes off there, right there up to the board. So that's going to be your Wi-Fi connection down to your little flat cable. A lot of people that try screen repairs, and they don't know what they're doing, you can tear that. It gets stuck to the screen as you lift it off, and you can go in with a tool and it tears that, and it means you don't have any Wi-Fi. Up here, they're both your cellular antennas, as per that big black strip. The reason why that big black strip is there and it isn't on a non-cellular version, so the ones that don't have SIM cards that only Wi-Fi use, the reason why that black strip is that the aluminium chassis, the actual cellular signal cannot get through the aluminium, so they replace that with a plastic cutout. Again, it's nice and flush fitting, but it just allows the cellular signal to come out and go back in. And those are the cellular antennas. Then going back to the dock, either side of the dock, you've got these really cool speakers. Now they're really loud considering how small they are. And in there, that's all it is. It's a tiny little black block per speaker attached to the cable that then plugs into the dock underneath this table, under this little connection underneath there. Now the home button here is incredibly intricate. Obviously it's the fingerprint ID, and then that connects into, I believe, the back of the screen, and then the screen connects into these connections here. You'll have one for the touchscreen, one for the LCD, and one for the home button, with all those tiny little connections on there. So that's the inside of your iPad Air 2. I'm going to stick this video on YouTube, and obviously you compare that to an iPhone mainboard, and as you can see the difference in size, but they follow the same theme. You have the mainboard up the side, you'd have had the battery here, and then along the top there you'd have sort of audio and camera connections, pretty much the same to this. You've got all the intelligent part of your iPad going up and along there, and then you've got the main part, which is the battery. So I'm Neil at Spark Angels. Thanks for watching my dull geek guide to what's inside the iPad Air 2, and if you've got any issues, then yeah, just drop us a line. Thanks for watching.